とせよ。応答せよ。おかしいわね、おじさん。しげるったら1時間も連絡がないのよ。
まあいいじゃないか。プラクサター滅びたんだ。しげるだって骨休みぐらいしたいだろうに。
口笛高くやってくる強い男はストロンガー仲間はタクル
Look at that dog. The heavens call to him. The earth calls to him. The people call for him to... Oh, wait. Really up close. Was that? Yeah. The people call on him to growl at his owner, the reviewer of justice. Who? Me? I've been covered for cheaper before you were anything. There's not too much to ask. Much better. Hello and welcome to KamenRider. Wait. Much better. Hello and welcome to KamenRider Blackman, and today we will be reviewing KamenRider Stronger. Another one of the Heisei era, the Showa era, that I just wanted to review. Okay, look, I'm busy in a little bit, and my folks just went out to go visit my grandfather, who's in the hospital. He's doing fine now. Prayers out to him. But yeah, KamenRider Stronger. This show, it's another show from the Showa era that I was a bit curious to watch, just to see how it is, because I've heard some flack about it, and I've heard people say that they really like it. And I'm getting into this show saying, I'm getting into it and I'm leaving the show and I'm saying, it's not terrible, but there are things wrong with it. Like, I'm not saying at the moment that I like it or that I hate it. I'm saying that this show was... Well, first things first, before getting into anything involving the show, I would like to first give a shout out to one of the sources where I actually managed to watch the show on, Midnight Crew Subs. I caught them on Facebook groups. Which ones in particular elude me. But yeah, Midnight Crew Subs, shout outs to them. If anyone's interested in watching Stronger for the first time or in general, just go check them out. If you look them up like how I did by just searching on Facebook, then there you go. Midnight Crew Subs. Hope you guys would enjoy them. So, now with Stronger, let's start off with the opening, which I do like. It's not a bad song by any means. I just feel like compared to others before and after it, it's not as dynamic. Like, it's less about the main character, and it talks more about, I guess, the duties of a superhero, with very little descriptions about him. Which is not bad, but compared to all the other Showa openings that there are out there, it's not particularly that high, at least to me. But again, I do not think it's a terrible song. Another thing, that this show also has two ending themes. I like the first one a lot more because it talks about two of the main characters, Stronger and another one, which I'll get into in a bit. And the second one is more all about Stronger, and I just prefer the first ending theme a lot more, as I was just playing it in, well, the opening, well, thumbnail. And so, let's get started with the first episode. And the first episode is, it's more like a regular episode, because we don't learn anything about anyone until episode 2. It's like watching Power Rangers Samurai when it first comes on television. Like, we don't get episode 1, we instead get episode 3. That's what it feels like, that's what it basically is here. And in episode 2, we get our character's backstory. So, in episode 2, our hero for this season, his name is Shigeru Joe, a former college football player whose best friend was murdered by the villains of this season, Black Satan. Yeah, that name, Black Satan. As opposed to all different kinds of Satan, like white Satan, blue Satan, purple Satan. No, Black Satan, because black was evil in the 70s. Anywho, so yeah, Shigeru's best friend was murdered by the villains of the show, Black Satan, and because Shigeru's friend was abducted by Black Satan to be turned into a cyborg. The surgery, however, was a failure, so they killed him. Sometime later, Shigeru finds his way to a Black Satan secret base and asks to become a cyborg, and they agree to do so. The reason why the surgery failed last time was because Shigeru's friend's body couldn't handle it. So kudos for showing that not everyone could just be a cyborg, making the deciding process more selective. Think about it. In Power Rangers RPM, Dylan went through 100 different tests to see if he can handle the powers. Changing your body to have machine-like mechanics is one thing, but there's also the matter of physicality, if one could truly take it. After Shigeru's surgery was a success, he is revealed to now be a cyborg with the power of electricity. But I gotta ask, did they cut off his hands and then replace them with metal hands that can conduct electricity? Seriously, I don't think he has normal hands anymore. I thought the whole becoming a cyborg gig was more concrete than that. What the hell? The scientists next take Shigeru to swear allegiance to Black Satan's great leader. But Shigeru instead reveals his motives for sneaking in here and uses them to complete his plan. He then proceeds to smash his way through the place and gets out of there. But not without leaving with another now electricity-infused human named Yuriko, who can now become the Electro-Wave Human Tackle. Wow. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Thank you. It sounds like some sort of fishing supply store that also deals in VCRs. Yeah. It's stupid.
Had to do it. So, yeah, let's talk about Tackle's look. This outfit was, for the very first female Showa hero, or for what I've heard, not, I'll say this, compared to Rider Man, it's not as egregious. Or at least I'm saying that about the helmet. The chest, maybe, that's just... The helmet's not as egregious as Rider Man's. That's all I can say. The rest of the suit is dated and just... Okay, well, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just dated. Tackle herself is more on the line of being a prototype secondary rider, because when the fighting starts, she's more useful against the minions, but when it's to the higher up monsters, she gets curved like immediately. And the reason she exists too is because female fans I know words. Yeah, the reason she exists too is because female fans of the franchise were personally writing to creator Shotaro Ishinomori about wanting a heroine to play as with male friends, and he did it. Like, having more women in this particular franchise is and will always be a demand, not just for female empowerment, but for equality. And thankfully, we're 2 years into the Reiwa era, and we're finally getting that. But for the inspiration to start it off, and I'm going to sound like a huge nerd when I say this, and I know I will. Could she not have been on the same power tier as Rider Man and Kuga growing form? Like, I'm being dead serious. I'm not just talking about her only being able to handle the mooks. She has literally one special move and no others. seriously. Electrowave toss. That's it. Sadly, behind the scenes, Yuriko's actress had very bad asthma, so she couldn't do as much as she could do in terms of her own stunts. It would have been smarter to cast another actress, but hell, I wasn't there in 1975, so we got what we have. Matter of fact, let's talk about Stronger next, since we actually saw Tackle first and Stronger second. And so, Stronger suit. It's okay. Let me start off with this: the helmet and those eyes. I don't have an issue with the horn. My matter is all on those big ass eyes. Like, compare this to Kuga and that helmet. The eyes are a good enough size. They're not too big. And then the horn is big as it is, but that's fine because it's a beetle. For Stronger, however, he has big ass eyes. Like, if anything was to, like, get in his face like this, he should still be able to see, sort of. Like, at least just try to move your corneas or something. Those eyes are just way too big. And for the suit itself, it looks so blown up. Like, I think one person's defense for it was because Shigeru was a football player. But dude, come on. You're going to be punching and kicking. And you gotta move your hips and your torso some. Just for some activity. I'm just saying. And while we're at it, let's talk about Kabuto's bike. I mean, Stronger's bike. My bad. To which, by the way, I'm not too sure if anyone would find this fact of importance at all, but Stronger is the first rider to be based off of a beetle. While, of course, the second is Kuga, but I just thought that'd be something to mention. Since, I don't know, beetle-themed riders are rare these days. So, as for Stronger's bike, the Kabutoro, it's... really, I have no opinion on it. It's red. You can see the sparking motif with it. An earlier concept for it was going to be able to fly, but it never went to fruition. So, yeah, pretty much. So now, let's talk about Black Satan. The first general we meet is Titan. He has a human form, but he's supposed to be a Cyclops, I'm assuming. But, anywho, also, another interesting fact about Titan, for anyone who has seen KamenRider Build, they may be able to recognize Titan's actor, because his actor was Namba in Build, like one of the villains, that old man villain in that show, who is in charge of the Namba Industries. Yeah, he first showed up in this show. And so, next, let's talk about the minions. I believe they're called the Black Satan Soldiers, for what I've seen. They're pretty simple. And they actually remind me of two types of minions, too. The minions from Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, the Batlings, and those other minions from that show, Ryukendo. Though I'm pretty sure the only difference between them is that I'm pretty sure on the Black Satan soldiers, their ears are a bit flappy like this, as if they're wearing, I want to say, Adam West Batman mask, if that's accurate enough. But yeah. Another interesting thing about these minions too, this show actually has plenty of biking scenes in the first half of Stronger taking on the minions while they're all on motorcycles. That's actually quite an interesting thing to do with the minions. Because think about it. Most days, when we get minions, they're just there to fight the bad guys. But a long time ago, the minions would be used in certain dynamic ways. I'm trying to think of some examples too. Like maybe from... Oh, here's one example. From Kyoryuger and Shinkenger. In Kyoryuger, the minions could actually come together to create those giant monsters. I think they're called the Paramonsters or something, or Zorimas. I don't remember the names. And in Shinkenger, the minions could also come up giant size. So I'm not saying that this is as good as that, but it's a good early start for having the minions do plenty of different things, as opposed to just, hey, here are the minions, go after Stronger or whatever. And yeah, them using motorcycles too. Well, back then motocross racing was still new, so I guess they wanted to do plenty with that. So, in episode 3, we get the return of Tobei Tachibana for the last time in the KamenRider series, because the actor Akichi Kobayashi this is basically the last series that he will be a part of. And some point, I just know I will watch V3 and the original show. V3, that is. The original show I know was like 98 episodes, so ooh. Oh, so now, before we get up to episode 13, not a lot happens. It's just Monster of the Week after Monster of the Week for the first half, that is. And, which, by the way, the monsters in this show, 1, they're called mecha monsters, and 2, they do this really creepy thing where they'll take the form of these insects called Satan bugs, and they'll crawl into people's ears to possess their bodies for the scheme of the week. Very creepy. But yeah, it's before episode 13, it's just Monster of the Week after Monster of the Week. And the only way a couple of episodes stand out from each other is by how Stronger kills the Monster of the Week some type of way. Because, real talk right now, having the power of electricity is less blunt than you think. Because Stronger actually uses the power of electricity in plenty of different ways. Like, for example, he one time creates an electromagnetic force field, to which I'm sad he doesn't use so often or again after that one episode. It's like, in the first half of the show, he uses his powers in plenty of dynamic ways. But in the majority of the time, he sticks with the rider kick. But when he doesn't use that, he does have two moves that I can name off the top of my head. One move is called the Electro Stream, where he'll throw a monster into a body of water and then shock them to death from there. Because yes, our electricity-powered KamenRider has the special move of throwing an electronic in a bathtub and killing someone that way. Another move just shocks the hell out of me, because he has this one move called the Electro Thunder, where he freaking summons lightning to strike someone down. Do you know how fucking awesome that is? Like, honest to God, if you can do something like that, don't bother doing anything else. You can just end the whole fight like, oh really? Power of Zeus. Done. Like, damn, yeah. And so, episode 13, Titan pulls off a plan where he sends letters to Shigeru and Yuriko about Yuriko's brother, who is captured by Black Satan and has started to escape. Spoiler alert, her brother died from a failed cyborg conversion surgery, and the monster of the week was masquerading as him. Stronger and the monster fight, and Titan soon turns on the monster in the hopes of... That is a timer that I had just for purposes. I wanted to see how long I'd be reviewing for. Anywho, Titan soon turns on the monster in the hopes of killing Stronger, and once Titan and Stronger fight, none of Stronger's moves are working. But you know what does kill him? Throwing Titan into a body of water. And no, he doesn't drown to death or anything. He earlier raised his body temperature to 24,000 degrees. That's as hot as magma. And cold ocean water kills him. I'm not even bothered by the science. There's no flash, there's no special tricks. Just water that kills him because this is the Wizard of Oz. I changed my mind. I looked it up to see what happens when you mix magma with water. What happened in Titan's case is fragmentation. Basically, when magma or lava meets any body of water, it'll cause an explosion of both elements. So how he died was completely and scientifically accurate. Still funny though. Episode 14, Titan's replacement comes in, and he is General Shadow. Unlike Titan, General Shadow isn't concerned with Black Satan and just wants to kill Stronger. And boy, does he show it with how he screws over Titan, because him and Shadow do not get along. And I just like seeing whenever Titan's pulling off a plan and General Shadow just foils it immediately. Because he's just a petty motherfucker. And he just wants to kill Stronger, and he does not know. Well, no, he knows. He just doesn't care how he does it. It's like, whew, I just like him. And so, episodes 22 and 23 are a two-part conclusion to Titan's tenure, because he dies again permanently. And in episode 25, another general comes in, replacing Titan and dethroning General Shadow. Black Satan's second to the great leader, highest commander, Dead Lion. Spoiler alert, he doesn't die soon, but he will be out of a job. During a fight with Stronger, he loses a pendant with vital information about the great leader on it. And in the next episode, Black Satan tries to get it back. And in episode 26, Shigeru soon discovers the great leader and destroys him. But before he dies, he alludes that more enemies will come after he's gone. Speaking of said enemies, that new character I just brought up, Dead Lion, never seen again after this. Like, honest to God, he wasn't killed by Stronger or anything. It's like, after the great leader died, who knows what his ultimate fate was, because he's never shown again, as if the writers just forgot about him. Well, honestly, I should possibly take that back, because one writer apparently did remember him years later in the KamenRider Spirits manga, where apparently that character is still around and now he's aligned with previous factions and the new villains that fight KamenRider Zekross, apparently. So that's all. Just what we got. I should remind you all that General Shadow is still alive and is now at the forefront along with the new villains, the Delza Army. They appear in episode 27, and it's where we learn that all the monsters in this show are demons. Demons that have been around for as long as humans, and they have cybernetic augmentations. And one big thing that the Delta Army cyber demons have over Shigeru, Shigeru and Stronger, is resistance to electricity. So Stronger's usual attacks, like his Rider Kick, won't work on them or anything until episode 31. So for the time being, Stronger has to rely on using his surroundings to beat them one at a time. So, episode 30. This is a trap for my emotions. Okay, so 2 monsters we'll focus on for these 2 episodes are Dr. Kate and Major Skull. Dr. Kate first attempts to attack Stronger, and he soon gets help from Tackle and Tachibana. Dr. Kate has a liquid and gaseous poison that'll weaken your body and will eventually kill you. Tackle unfortunately gets hit by it. Weirdly enough, Stronger gets hit by it too, but Tackle must have gotten a bigger dosage. The bottom line is she's going to die, and Yuriko and Shigeru's relationship has had some undertones. Somewhat brother and sister, or possibly romantic, which does happen sometimes, especially when working together for as long as they have. I didn't see it before, but I saw it in this episode that they both potentially like each other. Hell, the only reason she doesn't tell Shigeru is because of how much she likes him, that she doesn't want to slow him down because of her condition. Tackle and Dr. Kate are fighting, and to beat her once and for all, Tackle uses a forbidden move that'll cost her her life and her powers, called the Ultra Cyclone. In doing so, she kills Dr. Kate, and she shortly dies herself.
What? You motherfucker! Oh my god, you son of a bitch!
Dear God, my emotions. Great episode, but it hurts that it teases me of what could have been with Shigeru and Yuriko. Because you want to know another thing too? There was an idea that they were going to bring Tackle back and officially consider her a KamenRider, and they never went through with it. That's how much it hurts. So, episode 31, Major Skull is still out and after Stronger, and is very damn close to beating him, because like what I said, these monsters have the advantage of being unaffected by electrical attacks. So in Stronger's current state, he's ineffective. They finally changed that when a former Black Satan scientist that escaped finds Shigeru heavily injured and performs surgery on him to enhance his powers. Major Skull finds them and first kills the scientist, sadly, but Stronger can now resort to his new and the very first ever final form, Charge Up form. The only downside is that it can only last for 1 minute, but he uses that 1 minute quite effectively because he beats Major Skull in like 10 seconds. So, let's talk about Charge Up form, shall we? Parts of it are now just silver. That's really about it. And every time we see it on screen, it's always for like when he needs to do the finisher. And so, at least we see it and he's using it. And there are other times where he will just use, I think 1 or 2 times where he uses Charge Up in combat, and afterwards wears off after a minute. But hey, at least he uses it effectively. And keep in mind, there are like, it's episode 31 now, so 8 episodes left. But still, back to Charge Up form. Their KamenRider Saber's production staff have said that they were inspired by Charge Up to go into the Reiwa era, creating more simplistic final forms, like nothing too crazy or overly designed, like for examples, Zero Two and Cross Saber, two forms that take inspiration from the base form. And so, I just talked about episode 31, so episode 34 going forward is the beginning of the end. Like, this show as a whole was 39 episodes, and afterwards, KamenRider would be off the air until Skyrider 4 years later. So, knowing this, those writers must have thought, hey, let's go all out. So, episode 35, we get a new general coming to Japan, Marshall Machine. He's coming to Japan along with Armor Knight and Lieutenant Colonel Magnet. Every time I say that name, I wonder, is he a colonel or a lieutenant? Anywho, the Delta Army has been working around parts of the world, such as Spain, Greece, while General Shadow was in, well, Japan. Marshall Machine, on the other hand, was working in Egypt and was followed back to Japan by Hiroshi Miyauchi, aka Shiro Kazami, aka KamenRider V3. It turns out V3 and the other previous writers have been keeping up with the Delta Army's activities, and in episode 36, Kamen Rider X and Kamen Rider Amazon both return to Japan too, and it's actually quite nice to see these characters again. When Amazon shows up, he's using the Condor to hold down a monster, and the only way anyone could recognize him is for when he strips off his clothes and he's just wearing his jungle garbs. Like, that's the only way he's recognizable, when he's not wearing pants. Hell, the man got a haircut. You can at least acknowledge that, but you can only recognize him when he's not wearing pants? When he's not wearing pants? That's just says something about that show as a whole. And for Kamen Rider X, I may not be too big of a fan about that show, but it was nice to see Keisuke again. And keep in mind, that show also did have nice fight choreography. And he does use the Rydell. Awesome weapon. And so, episode 37, Rider Man comes back, and him, V3, and Stronger learn about the Delta Army's next plan to destroy a dam along with destroy shit with an earthquake machine. It turns out it was all a big setup to capture V3 and Rider Man, and the episode ends with General Shadow challenging Stronger to a final duel after receiving a prophecy that he'll die. And so, episode 38, General Shadow dies, but he manages to at least injure Stronger. Shigeru gets captured and is saved by Tachibana and Kamen Riders Ichigo and Nigo. And they get together and they foil the Delta Army at the moment while trying to rescue V3 and Rider Man. And so, episode 39, the final episode. Stronger and Ichigo take care of Armor Knight and Lieutenant Colonel Magnet. And weirdly enough, I thought they died, but actually they knocked them out. I was shocked for a moment and confused because if they had died, I was looking like, wait, where's the explosion? Like, I straight up would have been looking for like explosion to go off. Like, I've lived in this world where explosions symbolize something. Now it's changing. The Riders have two generals hostage, but Marshall Machine still reminds them that he still has V3 and Rider Man. And, well, now scratch that. He did have V3 and Rider Man, but they were saved by X and Amazon. I'm gonna be honest, this finale has good and bad parts. We're slowly getting to one of the bad parts with the final antagonists, sadly. But for right now, both sides are free from each other, and Tachibana is being held hostage by Marshall Machine, so the Riders go to rescue him and actually face the final boss. The great leader of the Delta Army revives an army of dead monsters, and as I said before in the Super One movie, all the previous Riders brawling with an army of monsters, that is fantastic. There's no need for flash, only explosions, And it's a big-ass battle that's early Gokaiger 199. See Rider Man constantly kick the shit out of a monster because fuck you? Hell yeah, I would want to watch that. See V3 fight 2-on-1? Show me another time where you'll see X flip a monster off a mountain, while Amazon does the same thing while adding on a big slice. So Stronger saves Tachibana and beats Martial Machine. The army's beaten, and all that's left is the Great Leader. This is where the finale gets confusing. The Great Leader of the Delza Army. Where did he come from? And why haven't we heard of him before? Did this show really even need him? Like, if you wanted a final antagonist, you could have just used either General Shadow or Martial Machine, because they were characters that we've already spent time investing in. But just some giant monster that's been hiding out for a little bit. Hell, I don't even just... And he's a combination of all the great leaders of evil organizations throughout the franchise? What? They all try to fight him, and not well at first, until everyone decides to combine their powers to shoot themselves into the monster? And they don't even do anything to kill it. They just find the brain, and it decides to self-destruct with everyone inside. Why the hell did you even bother?
Stupid! You're so stupid!
And this is why I don't dig how Stronger ends. Story-wise and editing-wise. Story-wise, it had a great start. Bring back all the writers from start to now for one final hurrah. What the writers should not have done was create a final boss. Because, let's be real, they didn't need a final boss. Up to that point, the Delza army was fine enough. There were the lower monsters, and then there were like the higher monsters, the generals, like Shadow and Martial Machine. So the last monster could have just been any of them. But that guy, some giant rock monster who just comes out of nowhere and says he's something that doesn't make sense for the life of me. Now, I'm being dead serious. If you've watched my reviews, or if you've at least seen the other shows, you would understand how it makes zero sense how that thing would be the mastermind pulling the strings for the last, 5 years. It just wouldn't make sense, and doesn't. Now, editing-wise, they beat the monster, all the writers just right off into the sunset. And when the camera pans over to each character, chronologically and individually, which it does a lot in that final episode, excessively, and it's so annoying. But when they do it one final time, they have the camera panned on each writer chronologically, and then they play someone else's music. Like, for example, cameras on Ichigo, V3's theme song is playing. Cameras on V3, Ichigo's theme song is playing. While shots of him fighting monsters are just popping up on our screen. That happens until we see the end credit. What? Who in the editing room botched that up? Because, just no. If you want to end things on a good note, you don't screw yourself over. I don't know if you know that or not. You just don't. Ugh. Anywho, let's now go on to the characters, shall we? So, yeah, that's the end of Stronger, and that's the end of KamenRider until Skyrider comes back in 1979. And so, now that we have officially wrapped up the show, now the characters. Starting off with Stronger himself, Shigeru. I actually quite like Shigeru. He's pretty charismatic, and that's what I love possibly the most about him, because he is such a dick and he knows it. It's the same reason why I like Ollie, Dino Fury Blue. He's a dick and he knows it, and he uses that to be entertaining. And I think I've heard something before about him being a little sexist or disrespectful towards Yuriko. And honestly, I did not see that at all. They both obviously respect each other and aren't harsh to each other at all. But Shigeru, he is just... I can watch Shigeru and not be bored. And I think it's because he brings a lot more to his personality. And the reason why I say that is because, well, for starters, he's not stoic. He's chill, but he is serious. And I think it's more entertaining to watch someone who's chill and serious as opposed to someone who's just stoic and serious. Because, I'm sorry, in my opinion, if you're watching a particular show that's part of a franchise and each character that's the main lead is stoic, like, it gets boring after a while. So getting someone who is not, like, say, in serious mode all the time, that's nice. And I think another thing that works perfectly for Shigeru is that he stands out. Not just in terms of personality, but in terms of story too. Like, he wasn't thrusted into this. He chose to do this willingly. Like, him, like, us learning that he willingly went out to find Black Satan just so he can get the power to fight them. The fact that he was willing to go out and find Black Satan and risk his own life just to avenge his friend, it shows how dedicated he is to his mission, and I appreciate that. Like, he didn't have to, he wanted to. That's what I like so much. I feel like with those before, and I guess after him, they were more or less thrusted into this, so sometimes it's either they have to, not that they want to, it's a they need to. But with Shigeru, it's completely different, and I was here for it. So next, Yuriko. I wish she was still in the show, because I did like her character. She wasn't bad, and I guess to me she wasn't too much of a load, because she did still manage to investigate and find whoever was the monster of the week. And I don't know, I don't overall hate her. I think she's totally fine. Though I do wish she actually did take out a monster just more than once. And while I'm at it, let's touch on a more serious subject. And I'm including Tachibana's actor into this too. These three actors, Shigeru's actor, Yuriko's actor, and Tachibana's actor, all three of them have passed away. Yuriko's actress is the earliest because she was 27 and she died in 1986 due to a very bad asthma attack. And so that hurts to hear. And it's really sad when you think about it too, because she was a very gorgeous woman, seemed very lively. And Tachibana's actor, Akiji Kobayashi, passed away in the 90s. Like, literally the only one of these three that managed to make it into the 2000s was Shigeru's actor, because he passed away in 2012 due to, I want to say, cancer. But yeah, it's just sad to hear and feel, because these actors were pretty good with the work they were given. No, we're not bad characters. Alright, so with that said, now that we've done the show and the characters, we are now going to read, well, the comments for people's thoughts on Stronger, which I uploaded and asked yesterday. Let's need a moment to pull it up. So let's now see. The first things first, this is on Facebook, and I'm just reading 3 comments. One is about how it's the first KamenRider to get an upgrade form. And the other 2, like I said too, a lot of people seem to like this show. And honestly, I can get why they like it. Speaking of which, number 1 watcher, Ray Hayes, this is your comment, man. I enjoyed it. I didn't see what made the TokuCast hate it. Personally, I can see how people could enjoy this show, sort of. But I don't hate this show. Like, here are my thoughts on Stronger. To me, it's in the middle. Like, it does repeat a couple of things that we have seen before in the Showa era and just in general. To which I'm thinking about right now if I will do a video on it, possibly, and I'll decide that off camera. Anywho, this show, it's not terrible or the worst. Like, I like the characters. I do like Stronger's powers and how dynamic they are. Black Satan was but the Delta Army was slightly better. General Shadow was just sweet. But altogether as a show, I think it's fine for the most part. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's terrible. It's just in the middle for me. And so, with that said, thank you guys for watching. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, share this video. Tell me what you guys think about Stronger in the comments down below. And so, with that said, my next show I'll be reviewing is KamenRider Skyrider. We are going on now to 4 years later into the future with that next. And oh god, the next time I review a modern KamenRider series will be December or something. Months away. But yeah, Skyrider. That's something I was also curious about, and I hope it is good. With that said, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.